Hello and welcome to this video that covers the GCSE Maths BODMAS worksheet. So, question number 1, we will solve the following: 9 times 2 minus 3 times 7. So to remind you what BODMAS is, remember BODMAS is brackets, order, which is the same as powers, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. And it determines the order of how we deal with things when we have a sum. So the first thing we have is 9 times 2 minus 3 times 7. So the first step that we would do is we would do the multiplication part first. So we would do 9 times 2, which is 18, and then we would do 7 times 3, which is 21. Then we do the subtraction part because that's at the end, that's after the n. So the subtraction part is we do the subtraction part second, and we should get a result of minus 3. The next question is 3 times 5 minus 2. Notice here that we have brackets. So if we do BODMAS, we do the bracket section first. So we do 5 minus 2. So we do 3 times 5 minus 2, which is 3. And then we do the multiplication. So we do 3 times, in brackets, 3. So 3 times 3, which gives you 9. For part C, we have brackets, in brackets 9 minus 4 all squared. Again, we look at the BODMAS. B is what's first, it's bracket and then powers. So we do the sum inside the brackets first. So we say 9 minus 4, which is 5. So we do 5 squared, and then 5 squared is just 5 times 5, which is just 25. Let's rub out these ones to make some room. And we will do D. So D is 7 plus 2 minus 6 divided by 2. So the first step that we do is if we write BODMAS, we notice that we've got an addition, a subtraction, and a division. Well, division becomes first, so we do the division part. So we do 7 plus 2, keep that the same, minus, now 6 divided by 2 is 3. So we do 7 plus 2 minus 3. And then the next step is that we've got addition and subtraction. Now, these two, if you remember from the lecture or the topic video, are exactly the same idea. So addition and subtraction are at the same level. So it doesn't matter which one, if a subtraction and then addition, or we do addition and subtraction. Usually we start from the left-hand side, so we do 7 plus 2, which is 9. And then we've got the minus 3. And then we do 9 minus 3, which is equal to 6. And that gives you your answer for part D. For question 1E, we have the square root of 10 divided by 2 plus 1. Now, if we remember the square roots, we have to treat it as though it's a bracket. So it's bracket 10 divided by 2 plus 1. If we do that, then that helps us understand that we have to do whatever inside the square root first. Now, you don't have to do the brackets to get a mark in the exam, but at the start it might help you remember that you need to do what's inside the square root. And then we go through BODMAS again, and again it's quite similar to the previous questions. We have a division and we have an addition. So we do the division first, 10 divided by 2, which is 5, and then we do the addition, then we've got the plus 1, and then we do the addition, so we end up with root 6. And if you put root 6 into your calculator, you end up with a really horrible decimal. So in this case, we just leave root 6 alone, as that is the most easiest way of writing an answer. And most of the time in the exam, you'd be expected to leave it in the easiest form, unless it asks for a particular number of figures or number of decimal places. But we'll cover that in a later topic. The next question is 18 minus 4 divided by 2 plus 1. So if we do BODMAS here, we've got a subtraction, we've got a division, and we've got an addition. So the first thing that we need to do is the division, because that's the first thing that comes up. So we say that 18 minus, and then we do the division part, which is 4 divided by 2. So 4 divided by 2, is equal to 2, and then we've got the plus 1. Now here we can just, obviously addition and subtraction are the same level, so we can do the subtraction first without a problem. Usually we start from the left hand side and work our way through. So we end up with 18 minus 2, which is 16, and then we've got the plus 1, which takes us up to 17, and that gives you answer for part F. And the final one for question 1 is 11 minus 7 plus 3 times 10 divided by 5. So again, BODMAS, we've got a division, we've got a multiplication, we've got an addition, and we've got a subtraction. Now remember as well, like addition and subtraction, division and multiplication are the same level. So it doesn't matter if we do the multiplication before the division, it will still result in the same answer. So we can either do, in this case, we can either do 3 times 10 or 10 divided by 5. Either one is okay. So we've got 11 minus 7 plus, but the traditional way is just to do from the left hand side first. So we'll do 3 times 10, which is 30. Then we've got the division by 5. Then the next step is we then do the division, because BODMAS, the division becomes before the addition and the subtraction. So we have 11 minus 7 plus, and then 30 divided by 5 is 6. And then we continue, so 11 minus 7 gives us 4 plus 6, which is equal to 10. And that is how we solve this one. So just take it step by step. Have you done the multiplications? Have you done the divisions? And etc. etc. Now, question 2. Question 2 is place the appropriate brackets to solve the following problem. So these ones are sometimes a little bit what we call trial and error. So it's a little bit of guesswork to get our answer. Sometimes you'll get them straight away, and sometimes you might have to try a few times changing the brackets around to get the correct answer. Hopefully we found the first one relatively straightforward. If you just plugged in 4 plus 7 times 5, you would end up with the result of 39. So that's obviously not equal to 55, so we need to place the brackets somewhere. And the most logical place we place the brackets is here, 4 plus 7 times 5. Because 7 times 5 is what we do first, because that's multiplication. So if we put in brackets 4 plus 7 times 5, we end up with a different sum. So let's try 4 plus 7 times 5. So what do we do here? Well, 4 plus 7 is equal to 11, and then times 5, and if we do that result, we get 55, which is the result that we want. That's the answer we want. So our answer for this one is going to be 4 plus 7 times 5. What about this one for question 2? Question 2, well, 2b, sorry. So 2b, we've got 10 times 6 minus 7 plus 4 times 2 equals to 38. Well, if we just do this, 10 times 6 minus 7 plus 4 times 2, without putting any brackets in, we end up with an answer of 61, which is not 38. So now we need to think about where we can put the brackets. And a good place to put the brackets might be with the middle numbers here. So we've got minus 7 plus 4. So let's try that one. That might not be your first guess, but we could try it. In this one, 10 times 6 minus, in brackets, 7 plus 4 times 2. So if we do that, we end up with 60 minus 7 plus 4, which is 11 times 2, which ends up with 60 minus 22, which is equal to 38. Remember here, your multiplication comes first and then your subtraction. So it's 60 minus 11 times 2, which is 22. So 60 minus 22. So that gives you your answer to B. What about part C, which is 4 divided by 2 plus 1 times 8 minus 9 equal to 1. So the next step here is let's try out and without any brackets. So we've got 4 divided by 2 plus 1 times 8 minus 9. And if we do no brackets, that is equal to 1. So That is good, and so this one is a mistake. So that's not actually what the question asked for. This is an old, so sorry. So the question is actually 5 divided by 3. So on your worksheet, you should have 5 divided by 3. So if you were to do this question, then you would get it as 1. So 4 divided by 2 plus 1 times 8 minus 9 is equal to 1. So that's without any brackets. And if we were to put a bracket, let's try around the 8 minus 9. So let's put our bracket here and see if it makes a difference. So we do 4 divided by 2 plus 1 times, in brackets, 8 minus 9. So that's going to be 4 divided by 2 plus 1 times minus 1. And if you plug this in, you will still get an answer of 1. So the next step then is let's move our bracket and let's put it around the 2 plus 1 instead. Because generally when we're trying to find the brackets, you want to put the brackets around the addition or subtraction. So if we do 4 divided by 2 plus 1 times 8 minus 9, and we put the bracket around the 2 plus 1, now we have the following. We have 4 divided by 3, because 2 plus 1, times 8 minus 9. And if you plug this into your calculator, you should get a result of 5 over 3, which is what we get when at least in your worksheet, you should have this answer here. So we know then that the answer should be 4 divided by, in brackets, 2 plus 1 times 8 minus 9. And finally, for part D. Part D, we have 3. Let's get rid of the answer part C. So we've got 3 minus 7 times 6 plus 2 equals minus 32. So for this one, if we use no brackets, so 7 times 6 plus 2, that gives us an answer of minus 37. So that's not correct. So we need to put in a bracket. So let's put in a bracket around the first one. So 3 minus 7 times 6 plus 2, that gives an answer of minus 22. So that's not correct. How about instead we put a bracket around the 6 plus 2 like this. So we have 3 minus 7 times bracket 6 plus 2. And that is equal to minus 53, which is still not the correct answer. So let's try another step. We've done a bracket around 3 minus 7, and we've done a bracket around 6 plus 2, but we've not done both of them together. So we'll try that. 3 minus 7 in brackets times 6 plus 2 in brackets. And if you plug this into your calculator, you get minus 32, which is the perfect result, which is exactly what we want. So in this one, we've got 2 brackets that needed to be put in. The question never said if it was 1 or 2, just said place the appropriate brackets. And therefore, sometimes you might have an equation where you need to put in 2 brackets to solve the equation. Okay, number 3. Number 3 is 2 harder questions with a lot going on. Now, these questions might look really daunting at first. You might think, oh wow, this is really hard. But actually, all you need to do is just take each one step by step. So for the first one, for A, so we've got 10 times 4 minus 2 times 4 squared divided by 4 divided by 2 divided by a half plus 9. So what we want to look at is BODMAS. And our first thing that we want to look at is the bracket. So the brackets is this section here, 4 squared divided by 4. So let's look within the brackets, and in the brackets we can see we've got a power and a division. So if we look at BODMAS, the order, which is powers, is before the division sign. So what we say is, okay, well that's 10 times 4 minus 2 times, in brackets, 16 divided by 4 divided by 2 divided by a half plus 9. Then the next step that we need to do is do the brackets again. We're still inside our brackets, and we do the division. So we do this step. So 10 times 4 minus 2 times 16 divided by 4, which is just 4, divided by 2 divided by a half plus 9. The next step then we finished in all our sums inside our brackets, so we can get rid of those brackets if we wanted to. And now we look at our next one. Any more powers? No, we have no powers. So then we look at division and multiplication. and we just start from the left hand side. So the first step we got is 10 times 4, or 10 times 4 becomes 40, minus, so we do the minus, and then we've got this one, 2 times 4. Well, here we've got multiple things going on, so we'll just do this step by step. So we've got 2 times 4 divided by 2 divided by a half plus 9. So we'll do the first step, and then we will look, so we've got a negative sign, so we leave that alone. And then we look at this one, 2 times 4. So 2 times 4 is 8, and then we've got the rest of the divisions. Then we'll look at the next step, so we've got 40 minus, and then we've got 8 divided by 2, which is just 4. And then divided by a half plus 9. And then finally we've got 40 minus 4 divided by a half, which is the same as saying, which we haven't quite covered yet, so this might be for those of you who are a bit more advanced. So we've got 4 divided by a half is the same as 4 times 2. Because what we are saying is we are saying 4 divided by 1 over 2. And in this case you can bring up the bottom of the fraction to the top. So then here we go, we can say it's 4 times 2, which is equal to 8. Don't worry about that at this stage if that's a bit confusing. It's something that you can come back to when you're practicing and revise it for your exam. But it's just a little bit of trick, but you could have used your calculator here to calculate this. So we have 40 minus 8 plus 9. And then we've done all our multiplications and divisions. So if we do BODMAS, we've just got our addition and subtraction left. And these are both at the same level. So it doesn't matter which we do first, but we'll start from the left hand side and do 40 minus 8, which is 32. So we'll do 32 plus 9, and that is equal to 41 as an answer. So your final answer should be 41. Now you don't need to show every single step. Obviously at the start it might be a good idea to do every single step, but please don't think you have to write this in an exam. You just need to but you need to understand the steps through so you don't miss a step. Anyway, thank you for listening. Oh no, so our next question is part B. So the next question is minus 10 divided by 20 times 2 squared times 5 divided by 5 times 8 minus 2. So again, we follow the BODMAS. And hopefully you spotted that there's a bracket here and a bracket here. So we need to do everything inside this bracket first. So if we look inside the bracket, what do we have? Well, we've got a multiplication and we've got a power. So power becomes before multiplication, and we have a division as well. So the power comes first, so let's deal with that. So we've got minus 10 divided by 20 times 4 times 5 divided by 5 times 8 minus 2. Then we do the next step, which is multiplication and division. So we just do this step by step within the bracket. So we're still within the bracket, we've not finished the bracket, but we do 20 times 4, which is 8, and then we've got times 5 divided by 5 here, times 8 minus 2. Then we have this step here, which you can either go through and do 80 times 5 and then divide it by 5, or you can realize, well, 5 divided by 5 is just 1, so that's just 80 times 1 times 8 minus 2, so then our result here is just 80 inside our bracket. Now there's nothing wrong with going 80 times 5, which is 400, divided by 5, and then do the divided by 5 to get your 80 back. But some of you may have seen this already and be miles ahead, and that's fine. But don't worry if you haven't, just take it step by step. If you take it step by step at first, you will be able to easily solve these ones in the future. So the next step then is we've got this, we've got a division, we've got a multiplication, and we've got a subtraction. So BODMAS tells us that we need to deal with the division and multiplication first. So let's look at the left hand side of this. We've got minus 10 divided by 80. So minus 10 divided by 80 times 8 minus 2. So minus 10 divided by 80 is just minus 1 over 8 times 8 minus 2. And then we do the times by 8. So minus 1 over 8 times 8 is just equal to minus 1 minus 2. And then we do the final subtraction, minus 1 minus 2, which gives us minus 3, which is our final answer. Okay, that one I think is actually a little bit easier than part A. but hopefully you managed to solve these ones. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, please let me know.